a while ago, I said there would be another opportunity to speak, not extensively, but again on this matter. And so today I wish to reiterate what I said at the first press conference I held after the local government elections, that this was a massive win for the People's Progressive Party. The numbers are confirming that. If you look at the local government elections from three perspectives, in terms of seats contested, we won almost two-thirds of the seats contested, about 754 of the 1,166 seats. APNU got 375. In terms of the NDCs contested, we won, and municipalities, of the 71, we won 48 and tied in 7 others. And then in terms of the popular vote, the difference between our vote and that of APNU is close to 28,000. And this you have to take into consideration that this could have been even larger, because 4 of the most populous NDCs in PPP areas were won without any contest. And so we expected that had those 4 areas voted, then the difference would have topped 30,000 votes. So from every perspective, this was a massive win for the People's Progressive Party. And I do not want us to lose that message. The silence of the coalition in the post-election period tells a story by itself. You would have noticed that the usual triumphant behavior of APNU, the arrogance, the talking about election results, etc., has been muted. That they have quickly moved on and hailed it as a victory for democracy, and I agree with that. But they have been reluctant to analyze the results and the implication of those results for future elections and political power at the national level. Now, when we campaigned with very little resources, and I must make this point, because I've asked at the last elections that the observers who were accredited say something about the pre-election period, the campaigning, election days activities, and the post-election period, the tabulation of the votes, etc., because observers have to give a comprehensive report. And they would normally speak about use of state resources in any election, any observer group. The coalition used massive, not the usual type of incumbency, incumbencies benefit, which most incumbents would have, that if they travel, etc., to some areas, it's paid for by the state. But a massive use by the coalition government of state resources in local government elections, and yet this poor showing. By contrast, the PPP ran a low-key campaign, and the results were hugely favorable. So we need to address that issue. But on the campaign trail itself, we said that we needed to point out to this government that they were not on the right track, and that massive result of this nature may jolt them out of this make-believe world that they live in, that they're on the right track. And we said, we want them to wake up and understand that they have to address the concerns of the people, and that we are going to be not negative about the future. Every time we criticize, we will offer an alternative. As we have done in the rice sector, we submitted a 9-point plan that, if implemented, could bring tremendous relief to the rice industry. We made some suggestions about how they can help the mining sector, particularly small gold miners. We have offered to have a discussion and to work a way out, because we do believe that whales could be saved, and the 25,000 people who would be affected should whale close, that they can continue to enjoy a decent standard of living. So we have made offers there. In several other areas, we have argued against this kind of police state behavior that is emerging now out of the coalition, that it will destroy business confidence. And we have even made suggestions about how, without taking away the powers from the police and the security forces to do their jobs. In fact, we are in favor of enhancing their powers. But the exercise of these and other state agencies of their duties can be done in a civilized, orderly manner, particularly using the court and transparent mechanisms. So that was our hope, that the coalition would be jolted out of this malaise that they seem to be in, and start addressing the concerns of our people. And if they do so, we said we will be there to be supportive of ventures that move our country forward, unlike what they did in the 3 years or 3.5 years that they had the majority in Parliament, when they cut $90 billion from the budget. So in keeping with that spirit and this massive win, we thought that the elections were over and we needed to move forward swiftly as a country. So at the level of the People's Progressive Party, we met and we said, we are going to make an offer to the government to, in the 7 areas that are tied, that we should come to some sort of agreement rather than going back to by-elections as provided for by the law, which we will deal with in a few moments, that we will make a suggestion to rotate the chairman and the vice chairman in these tied areas, and that this could enhance the cooperation between the government and the People's Progressive Party, and could probably maybe lead to more of the discussions that they've been talking about for some time. Could be testing the grounds as to whether they're serious about some of their public statements about social cohesion and inclusivity and wanting to talk to us. So this was a sort of testing ground. So I called Amna Ali. I don't remember exactly the day. I think it was Friday last. And I spoke with her. And I said to her that our reading of the law, which has been confirmed by the commissioners in GECOM, based on consultations within GECOM itself, is that there will have to be by-elections for the chairman and vice chairman in those areas where we're tied. And I am proposing that we rotate these positions. She said to me, their reading of the law was different. I said to her, you are wrong. You should consult with GCOM. And nevertheless, after you have spoken to GCOM and the Attorney General's chamber, maybe we can talk again. So on Saturday, I received a call from Amna Ali, and she said to me that they are inclined to go this route, that she had spoken with the president, and he supports this, and that they're inclined to accept the rotation, and she even suggested how the rotation should work, that it would be on an annual basis rather than a year and a half, dividing the 3 years term in two, because every year you have to elect mayor or re-elect mayors and deputy mayors. And so we even we talked about it, and we were talking about Mabruma specifically. She spoke about Mabruma, but she said, I don't see why we can't extend this to the other areas, and that she had spoken with the president, etc. So I said, fine, but there's a need to work out the logistics. So Gil Teixeira will lead a team, that was this Sunday, to talk with you about this matter and to work out the details. She called back in the evening, that same evening, and said that the president wanted us to sign an agreement, given what had happened to us in the Georgetown, when there was an agreement at some time in the past to rotate the mayorship. Philomena Sahai was supposed to take over from Hamilton Green, and they reneged on the agreement. APNU and the GGG had reneged on that agreement. So that given what had happened in the past, that it's his preference to have an agreement signed between the two parties and signed by the general secretaries of the two parties. I said I did not see any problem with that, and therefore the details could be worked out at the meeting that would have been held. When Gil Teixeira went to that meeting, we were told that there would be no rotation, and that they were prepared to do three, that we'll get three, the chairman and the vice chairman, and they will get three. Because one area by that time had elected a chairman and a vice chairman, one of the tied areas. So you had 6 remaining, and that there would be no rotation system. So this departed from my discussions with her, and Gil Teixeira undertook to get back to us on this matter. And then we were confronted with this illegal, undemocratic action of the minister, that he went ahead after, and you know the process by now, after a tie was declared, went ahead and selected, contrary to the law, the chairman and the vice chairman for these areas. So there are several things wrong with this, but let me say this, that even in the areas where the PPP won the plurality of the votes, that they were prepared to have chairman and vice chairman, PPP chairman and vice chairman, in the discussions, he declared those areas in favor of APNU 2. So the 6 NDCs, where we had the plurality of votes in 3 of them, and they had the plurality of votes in 3 of them. Even in the areas where we won, we had the most votes, he declared those in favor of their candidates, making them chairman and vice chairman. So that's undemocratic. It's thwarting, first of all, it's thwarting the will of the majority of the people in those NDCs. That's the first thing wrong with this. So it is an undemocratic action on the part of the government. Secondly, we see him, you have read our statement that Chapter 2801, the Municipal and District Councils Act, and even if you wanted to go to Chapter 2802, the Local Government Act, they're both clear on how chairman and vice chairman of municipalities and NDCs are elected if there is a tie, that you have to go back to by-elections, and only after the by-elections, if there is still a tie, then the minister has the power to select a candidate. They're both clear on those. Chapters 13 and 39, sections 13 and 39 of the Municipal and District Council Act are clear, extremely clear about this. At one time, we heard they were using 2809, the Local Democratic Organs Act, but then quickly that was quickly put aside because those relate mainly to RDCs, the appointment of RDCs, chairpersons of and vice chair of RDCs. So on these 2 acts, no person, a lay person as well as a technical person, could understand, read the language because it's clear, and conclude that you have to go back to by-elections by the electorate. It's mentioned that word, the people registered to vote in that area, the local government area. So this has been done. The minister now has acted illegally. I've seen when confronted, I think by the Starbuck News, he has given some sort of explanation that the elections were not held, can't be held by 28th of December. It's so convoluted and silly. And what he's basically concluding is that if that is his explanation, that for convenience, he has disregarded the law. He has disregarded the law for convenience sake. So this here is an illegal action on the part of the government. Now, what does this tell us? And by the way, they did not have to go very far to look at what happened before. In 1994, in Gibraltar Firish, we had a tie. And there's a precedent to it. They had a by-election, and Kenneth Joseph, who is now chairman of NACI, he was the candidate on the PPP side who won the election, that we supported, that won those elections, the by-elections. So the precedent is there too. And I think there are two other areas, I'm not sure, Mabaruma and Soesdijk, who's covered in. So these, right, these two areas, I gather there were 3 areas that that you had by-elections in 1994. But I'm sure about the 5-ish Gibraltar one, where you had a by-election. So we have no doubt that this illegal action of Bulkan and the government will be exposed. It says a lot if they're prepared to steal, even at the local government elections, to steal and the elections there, and to thwart the will of the people, even at the NDC level and Maburuma. It tells us a lot about this government, and it tells us a lot given what I've just outlined to you. The process that we engage in, that we initiated from the People's Progressive Party, never mind we had won so massively that we initiated to just conclude the setting up of the councils in these areas in a manner that is reflective of the votes that people got, the ties, etc. So we said, let's rotate the chairmanship. And so it tells you a lot about the so-called social cohesion that they talk about, and about wanting to work, and whether they're serious about it. Because if they're prepared to do this here, then what else would they not be prepared to do? And so we will continue through the courts. I have no doubt that this government will continue in the usual incompetent manner and with bluster pursue the court case. They will lose it eventually, and this will just drag out the non-functioning of many of those areas because their NDCs and the municipality will not be properly composed. This is the typical behavior of this government. Nevertheless, we will continue to do this. At the last press conference, I also said a few things. I said, now that these elections are over, the PPP will continue, and I had issued a statement, will continue to work hard at rebuilding the party. I had mentioned this at Babujan too. We will work in our base, first of all, and I said it's no secret that the PPP support, the majority of its support has come from Indo-Guyanese and Amerindians. And so I said we will work to strengthen our base and the party in our base. And then I went on to say that once this consolidation has taken place, we will then start working in APNU support areas, as we had done in the past many, many years in Linden, Georgetown, New Amsterdam, because for these elections, we did not have a very aggressive campaign in these areas. We did not have a campaign that we should have had. It's a deficiency that we recognize. And that we will, once we have consolidated the base, we will continue to work in APNU areas, bringing our message to the people in these areas that, one, we are good for Guyana, that, two, that we are the opposition not for only Indo-Guyanese or Amerindians, but we are the opposition for the entire country. If they too have concerns and their issues are not being addressed, then we have a duty and obligation to address the concerns of those communities too. I've noticed my critics, they've conveniently left out, after the consolidation of the base, what I said we will do next. And they said I openly admitted, which is no secret, that the support, as though it's a secret in Guyana where the support of political parties come from. But this happened once before. It happened at Babujan. And that's why I was subject to the frivolous, malicious lawsuit, because when I said that the APNU went around and beat the drums and say, throw these Kuli people out, and I mention it again, and the last elections, and I said, had anyone used that language in our party, we would have kicked them out. They left out that one sentence. It was a condemnation. They left it out, the lawsuit left it out. And then they went on conveniently to make this case about being racist. And so it happened again because I'm frank with you. The PPP will work and strengthening itself in its base. It has to do that, and it is doing it, and it's been successful so far. And then it will work in APNU's strongholds too, because we believe that having seen many APNU supporters, having seen this government in action now, will understand that the 23 years that we spent in office that were spent in service of all of our people. And that we want to take that message to those communities to ensure that by the time we reach the next elections, whenever they come around, not only will we regain some of the support that we lost in our base, but we will also gain significant support in APNU's base. And it is a frank thing. I don't have to hide and use coded words like Trotman. Coded words like Trotman or some of the others. I am frank about it. So I just wanted to say a bit about that. Maybe I can end there. But before I do so, we have seen capricious action on the part of many agencies. We believe that that many of our public officers are now subjected to political directions. Their people are pointed out to them who to go after, where some are political, some are business people, some are seen as non-supporters of the coalition, but not politically affiliated. And I want to make it clear that the People's Progressive Party will always support our public officers in the execution of their duties, provided these are done lawfully, with decorum, with civility, and not subjected to political directions. That they're not done maliciously, they're not done to discriminate against people. So what we are doing, I've just put together a small group is to examine every single case where there have been complaints about public officers acting upon political directions. We are creating a database now of this. If at any time now or in the future, when the PPP resumes office in this country, we find, because we're going to review every single case, that any public officer has acted contrary to the law or has acted upon or against individuals based on political directions, then those officers will face the consequences. If they act professionally, they have absolutely nothing to fear from the People's Progressive Party. But should they be discriminating against people or doing things that are illegal, then they will face the consequences. We have heard of so many cases where people, until now, we are not clear about SOCU's role. We heard Minister Harman said in Parliament that SOCU now falls under the jurisdiction of the Office of the President. We established SOCU under the jurisdiction of the police force, the authority of the commissioner. But so we have seen, we were promised these protocols about how SOCU would operate for ages now. We can't see what those protocols are. We have heard from many individuals whose homes have been raided late into the night, people in front of their wives and their children being subjected to all sorts of humiliation, photographs taken of their homes and their bedrooms, people searching at 2 a.m. in the morning in their home. This is not consistent with police action unless it is guided by a judicial process or there is a strong case of terrorist financing or some sort of matter of that nature, serious matter of that nature, where the police would have to, in those circumstances, act in a different manner. And there are numerous people whose homes have been raided, businessmen. Lots of those people now are questioning whether they should continue to invest in this country. Now, we had always said that the police should have the authority to go after people for money laundering or terrorist financing or any illegal act. But the police can't do this raid a home or SOCU on mere suspicion. That they should, if they should go to the court, secure a warrant, apply for a warrant from a judge, secure that warrant from the judge, and then on the basis of this warrant, enter people's homes and conduct the searches. And they can do so at hours that are probably with decorum. They can also do this with decorum. So we don't want that power taken away from the police, the power to investigate and to apprehend and to conduct searches. But this surreptitious late night raiding of people's homes, and I don't know if the media is fully aware of how many homes have been raided, because some of these people are fearful to even talk about it. And stuff taken away from them. And I'm not even sure that this stuff is lodged with the police when it's taken away. Could just be another ripoff of the businessmen. And so, if There has to be clarity about this and many other things. Many other things. And so, let us talk. I think Demerara Waves, by Dennis, you said that when you were dealing with the infamous BK matter, you said it's rumored that Baishan Lin gave the People's Progressive Party $100 million. It's one of your stories. And I checked with the General Secretary, and I checked with our Finance Secretary, and we did not receive $100 million from Baishan Lin. We did not. So that's one. Secondly, we heard that Baishan Lin had millions of hectares of land. At one time, it was rumored to. And then we were pleased that the audit report itself pointed out that they acquired about 400,000 hectares, but they had acquired it mainly through buying up other smaller properties. Whether they got the permission to do that or not, that's a different matter. But it's not true that Baishan Lin got millions of hectares under the PPP. In fact, the only company that got millions of hectares is Barama. And that took place before the People's Progressive Party got into power. And having said that, on the Baishan Lin manner, I'm pleased to see also that they said, after saying that we don't care anything about Linden, that Baishan Lin got $1 billion or over billions of dollars in concessions on machinery and equipment under the PPP, that is their factory, to establish it in Linden, in Region 10, to create jobs there. We pushed for that to happen. The fact that Baishan Lin did not comply is another issue, and the law will take its course there, because it did not, in the time frame, the allotted time frame, make the investment. So it proves, it disproves another lie that we did not care about investments and jobs in Linden. In fact, we're pushing Baishan Lin to go there. And then, coming back to the issue that Gail Teixeira wrote the Norwegians on, we're still calling now, and we're going to resurrect this issue. We're going to call again on the Norwegians, the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and everyone else to suspend all the GRIF payments, because $15 billion of GRIF money is budgeted in this year's budget. That money that they did not support, APNU did not support, that was earned, in fact, they were critical of, and they're spending now. But we want it suspended until Raphael Trotman apologizes for the statement that he made in Parliament, that the People's Progressive Party gave out all the forests. Either that or an international investigation should be initiated to see whether that is true. And the investigation would show that about a third of our forests are out. And in fact, for those who got TSAs, the majority of them, more than half of the TSAs, nearly 3 million of the 5 million hectares were given out prior to 1992, in the last few years of the government. And the 23 years that the PPP has been in office, it gave out about 2-point-something million hectares, but less than half of what was given out. And it's either Raphael Trotman apologizes for the misleading statement he made, or we're going to resurrect our call for the suspension of the GRIF funds. But regardless of what they say about the PPP and the forests and the management of our natural resources, We signed an agreement with Norway to preserve 99.9% of the forest. We didn't give it away to Asian companies and everyone else. In fact, they're benefiting, this government is benefiting from that agreement. They're using the money now. Secondly, when you look at the independent assessors who came to Guyana to look at our deforestation rate, they said it's one of the lowest in the world. And most of it came from mining, not from the wanton cutting down of our trees. And so those things tell you, we had international independent verifiers who came in and checked our stewardship. So you can say all you want about Baishan Lane and all the other logging companies, but look at the results. 99.9% of our forests to be preserved, lowest deforestation rate, one of the lowest in the world, assessed by an international group. These are things, and we earn and an international standing on low carbon development. So those are some of the matters that I wanted to speak about. Maybe we leave the others a little bit later. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. We will now open the floor as usual, the usual protocol, gentlemen and ladies. I saw you first. No, it's who I see. Not who goes up first. I have to see you. Mr. Mosley, then Mr. Chabral.
Mr. Jagger, sir, with regards to Baishan Lin and your party, you said that they did not make a $100 million donation.
Yeah.
But they didn't make any donation at all.
Not that I spoke with both persons, no. No, none.
And sir, with regards to
But can we be a little bit thing on these rumors? Because so much could be rumored. It could be rumored that we paid a reporter $15 million from the Baishan Lin money to keep quiet. To keep quiet and stuff. Can we go a little bit light on the rumors? Because it seems as though most of these rumors seem to be to the detriment of the PPP, not to some of the other parties.
No, sir,
Anyhow, okay, sorry about that. I just had to get that in. Sorry, but please, go on.
Baishan Lin, 3 years ago when your party was still in government, there was this issue with the vehicles. They were seized and then they were released and taxes were not paid on them.
Okay.
Would you agree, or do you think that the government that's there ought to go through all the actions?
I believe it is the right of every government to, including new governments, to check everything. And if they find cases where people have made promises or have agreements with the government that they did not fulfill, then they have a right to enforce those agreements. Not capriciously. So, but following the course of the law. And what do I mean by this? Take, for example, Baishan Lin, having not paid taxes based on the agreement they're supposed to for these luxury vehicles. From what I gathered, they did not pay the taxes. If that's the agreement, they should pay the taxes. They land on the East Bank. We went through this public tender. The last time I explained public tender expression of interest. Every single developer who expressed interest got a plot at a fixed price, excepting 2 persons who had tendered. Eddie Boyer, I explained this to him because he had just won the tender, the open tender for the Liliendal land, and Tulsi Prasad, who said they don't want to pay. They wanted it for free, the land. They didn't want to pay as developers because they had to put in lots of money into it. So they did not get allocations. Two groups. But there is an agreement about how those developers should act. They're supposed to put in investments. They're supposed to do a number of things, etc. I'm not sure they can sell the land. So this government is within its right to see what they agree to and enforce it. Enforce it. Now, on the other hand, the core homes. Why are you going to want to take away these things from poor people? Or ordinary people? Even a person got a house lot. They can't afford to build, but they legitimately got a house lot in this time. Why governments have to also understand, exercise some sort of conscience and discretion. You can't go after the big ones yet to take away, enforce the law in relation, but you're going after sitting ducks, ordinary people who have a core home, who can't even afford the legal fee. Or a person who has a house lot, got an allocation, and might even have his title to the land, but can't build now. But they own it, they're hoping to build sometime in the future. Why? Those are sitting ducks. Many of those people can't afford even legal representation, but there seems to be a massive push to go after them. So that's why I'm arguing. Look at about taking away people's leases, who have been there. Those are court matters now. And, they're court matters. You cannot, it is how you exercise this issue. You might have the right to do some things, but it's how you exercise it and in whose benefit.
Okay, Mr. Chabot?
Mr. Jaggi, you mentioned whatever I would. Sir, with respect to your planned sanctions against public officers, should they be found wanting? To what extent do you believe you may be alienating public officers who may have to carry certain actions because of the fact they do not want to lose their jobs? How do you balance that against losing support?
We will support whistleblowers legislation soon. And because you're right that some public officers may be exposed to political directions, and they're fearful that their jobs would be on the line if they don't carry them out. You're absolutely right about that. And so with whistleblowers legislation will basically protect those officers. But if I'm not worried about alienating public officers. In fact, what we are doing, this is to protect them, because we want, if they are given an illegal instruction, all they have to say when that investigation takes place, because every act where we have a complaint will be investigated, every act. And if that public officer says, this is how I got this instruction, I would urge the public officers to record the time the call takes place. If they get illegal instructions, record the time, the person, the nature of the instruction, and keep it. Or if they have it in writing, they should keep a copy of that in writing, so that if at some point in time they can show that, demonstrate that, then they don't have anything to fear, because we will understand that. We'll understand that they were pressured by the political leadership into committing illegal acts. So that is how we'll deal with it.
And if I could turn,
Yes, please.
You have a follow-up
Or-
question, Mr. Chabot?
to follow up.
Yeah.
Sir, if I could turn the question the other way around, to what extent are you signaling that you will deal with political appointees should the PQ return to office? So you're already setting the stage to say that those who take instructions, those who are politically appointed, may have to go home.
Yeah, but you understand that we are not going after a witch hunt. We're not going to pursue a witch hunt. We are just saying where the illegal instructions are given, illegal, if the instructions flowing from the politicians to the public servants are legal, then PPP is not interested in any witch hunt. We proved that in 1992. We don't care too much about the we care about the incompetence. We'll find a lot of incompetence. But the day we resume office in this country, we have already listed 18 things I've listed that we have to change. 18 things that we have to change to get this economy rolling back again and confidence rebuilt in this country. 18 things already, and that list, I guess, will grow longer in the first week in office. And it's not going after politicians. That's not one on the list. But where illegal instructions are given and where people act pursuant to those illegal instructions, then those matters will be investigated. And I should be in any society, and there'll be consequences.
Adam Harris,
Yes,
from
Mr.
you.
Harris.
Yes, Adam Harris from you, sir. Sir, what was your involvement with Joe Harmon following the revelation that he had intervened to prevent the repossession of the Baishanlin vehicles?
My involvement? I have not spoken to Harmon since the last time in Parliament. I saw him in Parliament. No, when he came to my sister's funeral. I saw him at my sister's funeral. The president called me, and as I said the last time, the president called and about my sister's passing, and he told me how he also has 5 sisters. It was difficult for him. 4 of them died and stuff like that. Harmon called, Amna Ali, Basil Williams, several people called me. And so he came to the funeral, and that was the last time I spoke with Harmon. That's the last time. Yes.
Go ahead. There were a number of things said in the beginning of the press conference. I think all are very important.
Marshall Thomas, South News.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Javier, given the international focus right now on tax havens created for political leaders, summarized in the Panama Papers scandal,
Sure.
are you prepared to say whether you have
Sure. I have an account there. The answer is no.
no, not there.
Anywhere.
You have accounts in any tax havens,
Right.
holdings,
Okay.
shell accounts or anything like
Yeah, no. No. The answer is no. And let me just go back, and I hope now this question will be asked of several people. Now that you have my answer, which is no, that you will ask the same question of several people, and including one newspaper, no, owner. I don't know, call a name.
Unnamed.
So let me go through this. We went to the Parliament with a motion
Yeah.
to release our tax records. We know the history now that Nagamutu said Jagdeo wanted to avoid scrutiny because he doesn't pay taxes, former president. So it would have been better to have a motion to release the statement to the Integrity Commission. We amended the motion there to include the release of our Integrity Commission statement to the public, and also a clause which says that we should go aggressively prosecute those who have not submitted to they voted against it. So that was the first litmus test on transparency, the government that speaks about transparency. I am prepared. I mention it in passing to Nagamutu because they like to talk. You know, when he wanders around Parliament with his very light portfolio, you know, he wanders around, meanders in the place with his huge entourage. So I saw him and I said, why don't we go to Parliament together to ask Interpol to find out about all members of Parliament who have bank accounts abroad, who have shares in companies, who have properties, etc., all assets, to give us a report on everyone. I am prepared now to still cooperate with the government, not surreptitiously through this, what's the organ called again? SARU, because those are political hacks who are there. They're trying to do a hatchet job on PPP people. That's all they're there for. They're nothing about transparency. They're there to damage reputations and do everything else. And so let us do this as a motion in Parliament. Then we jointly make a request. So then the international organizations wouldn't treat it as partisan. They will treat it as a national thing where we want to find out the status of all presidents and ex-presidents and members of Parliament about their holdings abroad. Because remember, their argument is that they don't know what people stashed abroad. So we are prepared to do this. Would they ask them if they are prepared to do this? To go with us jointly and make a request of anybody. Whether or not Interpol, we hire an investigative firm together to look at all of the holdings of everyone. So let us do that. That goes even beyond the no answer. That goes beyond the no answer. So you have two sets of things now to ask them if their names are in these places, they have accounts in these jurisdictions from the other side. And secondly, whether they are prepared to support this proposal of the People's Progressive Party to do this. Yes. By the way, may I come back to Adam Harris? I noticed a lot about the Harman affair. And what he said about giving benefits to people who helped them in the pre-election period and now. And I agree with you that it is wrong, it is reprehensible. However, we should, why were we not similarly outraged when Raphael Trotman, at the opening, I think, of the AFC office, when we're told that the Lloyd Singh built their office for them. In fact, Ramjatan's speech said that. And Raphael Trotman spoke about individuals making political investments and expecting things in return. Why were we not similarly outraged by that? Are we being selective? Are we being selective? So Trotman gets a free pass on making a statement that is so outrageous like that a 2 months back, and Harman gets slaughtered for what he said. But I noticed Harman said that he had to sign many things for both APNU and AFC supporters. Was it that he was saying that we both do the same thing? So why you know, why would Nagamutu feign ignorance and some of the others feign ignorance of what Harman did when Harman, has had to sign similar instruments for many AFC supporters? And why were we not so outraged when we heard about these 30-something advisors that were appointed overseas? And Nagamutu's office has been a nest of patronage. He has not done any work on behalf of the nation. He enjoys massive resource at his disposal, much of it for personal, because all of the benefits that he gets, the perks of office. But he's been using this. I've gathered they're just in Port Moran. They rented the old cinema and made it into a government office. And now a relative of his is now being paid by the state to man the office. I was told this just coming here. And but if you examine how many people they've appointed in the regions, it's unbelievable. This is political patronage. But many, many people have now these instruments that they're advisors on investment and all sorts of things, running around communities in North America, often using these certificates or these instruments to extract money from people, saying that they can arrange for them to get benefits at home or to make things smoother because they're advisors, etc., and collecting fees on behalf of fees for facilitation fees, that's what it's called. So why are we not similarly outraged? We have been pointing this out in the PPP for a while. So I hope that that focus will also be on what they said. And what is obscene about the statement by Trotman and Ramjatan, because they both were part of that, is that they are negotiating in secrecy a power deal with the gentleman who built their office. And Jordan said, 28 cents per kilowatt hour, that's the cost of generating power. 28 cents, when it was 11 cents, we pointed it out, it was I, and that they were negotiating a power deal at about half of the 28 cents, 14 cents per kilowatt hour, when it now costs GPL around 11 cents per kilowatt hour, and that is if you include amortization to generate power. But there's a big deal that is being negotiated in secrecy now. When this happened, why are we not similarly outraged when the Feathers Lloyd, they argued that they were using an evaluation report that we did, and in fact that the evaluation report ranked Feathers Lloyd as number 2, when the evaluation report in fact had disqualified Feathers Lloyd. And they're now going to award a multi-million US dollar contract, upwards of $18 million to Feathers Lloyd without any tender. Why are we not similarly outraged? And I'm pleased that Transparency International Guyana has asked for certain things, because we said, if you're getting all of these donations, every week we hear about donations, going to businessmen asking for $15 million. Almost, I spoke with several businessmen. They've been asked for $5 million, $15 million for some project in the government. But we don't know whether there is any accountability or what benefits they're getting for these projects. Gail has to leave. So why don't we? I'm pleased that Transparency International Guyana has asked for these, so we're going to get it. But they can't be selective only on the Harmon issue. Look at what Trotman and Ramjatan and Nagamutu. Find out how one of their supporters got a $420 million contract without any tender for the supply of fertilizer. What about those issues? So, yes, sorry about that.
Do you think the BK appointment was a bad one, though?
Let me come back to you on that, but let me give the others a chance first.
Last Nine Citizens Report, can you comment on the fact that Transparency International has also said that the trusting or the perception that APNO FC would have tackled corruption was a dangerously misconceived notion, given and how that ties in with the results that we had at the local government?
I'm not in the view. This is an NGO, and so they have a right to say what they want to say. My view is that they campaigned on one of the main planks of their campaign was about corruption. I remember this ad running over and over in the newspapers and on TV that the PPP stole $110 billion. $110 billion. Gulsaran and Clive Thomas said every year $28 billion is siphoned off from public procurement. 28 billion, not million, $28 billion. They that, what, 15,000 ounces or some 800 million US dollars of gold is exported, smuggled out of the country. They had a lot of these things and they will correct them. So they got into office and they did these audit reports, and now we've seen the audit reports. And the government is not going to be fair because the audit reports did not substantiate what they said. There's no way that $110 billion could be stolen. I noticed the Minister of Finance saying millions. He had dropped from billions to millions in one of his speeches. So that's one. The first thing is that they have recalibrated from the billions into millions have been stolen now. And the reports are out. Some of these reports are very unprofessional. They're not, as I said before, forensic audits are designed to find evidence to charge people. That's what a forensic audit is designed to do. It's not like a regular audit done for management control or internal purposes or by the Auditor General. Forensic audit is designed to find evidence to prosecute. And so we are arguing that wherever you have that evidence, go to the courts, because we believe that you don't have to destroy a person's name. File the court action, and that these claims are so flimsy that they will be destroyed in court, a lot of the claims. But they have decided on another course of action. I had called for the release of all the audits, but I did so after they were not releasing them. But I asked that they release them with the response of the people who were being audited. And that's standard auditing practice. You finish you do a draft, and then you send it to the people to give a comment. You give them a month or so, and then they respond. You don't have to put it in. But we had passed a law which says that if you in the Auditor General, when the Auditor General audits an entity, he has an obligation to submit along with that audit the response of the entity to the Public Accounts Committee. So that's standard now. Why aren't the responses being made public? Because if the responses are made public, you would see how shallow and unprofessional some of these audits were. And secondly, you will see that they're perfectly legitimate explanations for many of the things that they say were corrupt. So that's one reason. And second reason is because many of them never gave the entity a chance to respond, which is unprofessional in itself. So now I'm asking the media, the same way that the government audits have been released, can you now ask the entities that were being audited to give you a copy of their response and carry it with the same prominence? And then publish those where they never got a chance to give a response. Can the media do this? Because if you do this, then you will find it's only treating people fairly. And we believe that if that is done, you will see the shallowness of these audits, many of them. There's some good audits that require strengthening of management control, etc. But that was not the purpose of the audit. The purpose of the audit was to find evidence to charge, forensic audit. And so I'm asking the media to contact those entities where the government has released their audits, for which the government has released the audits, and if the government doesn't give you the response of the entities, see if you can get it from the individuals who are audited, or alternatively put a note to say, for the audit of this agency, there was no response because the auditor never sought it. That would only be fair to people. So I am not, so coming back to that, your question. I think, so they campaign on this. They wanted to prove that we are corrupt. They're having a hard time to do it. In the meantime, the procurement system stinks. All that we have put in place, they have stacked the tender boards with partisan people. They go to, as I pointed out, they're awarding big contracts without any tender. Nobody has been able to probe the mess in the city council, or the maze that they have there, the financial maze, to find out since the elections in this cleanup how much money was spent and who got the contracts, what tender process was used. Nobody, the media can't get it. We can't get it. I don't know where it exists, but nobody knows, excepting for a few. I've heard the stories how contracts were awarded. Come in, somebody sympathetic, he gets a $20 million contract, goes to see the officials there, and they get a call from some agency, government ministry, and they get a contract. No tender. They've dispensed with the tendering system. And by the way, this cleanup is good, as I said before, but they're financing it, as I said on the campaign trail, they're financing it from the money that they took back from our children, $1.6 billion.
The BK appointment, sir?
Oh, the BK appointment, governments can appoint who they want. That's my view. They can appoint, that's their business. We never, we appointed people too. Several people. Governments can appoint whoever they want. That's their business, whoever they want. But it must be done transparently. They need to release the names of all the people who are appointed and why, whether they're serving any purpose. Do they get money from the state? Do they have special privileges? I heard about, I don't know how many of the 30-something advisors have diplomatic passports now. If they give all of these people diplomatic passports and stuff, you know what will happen internationally to our standing. Because suddenly you have a carpetbagger with a diplomatic passport in New York operating, who lives in a basement, who was helping out in the campaign, who lives in a basement. Not that there's problem with people living in basement, but he has an instrument as an advisor and gets a diplomatic passport and goes around to businessmen. We know a few cases saying, you know, I can get you some contracts in Guyana. We saw somebody who owns a Chinese restaurant now getting a $420 million contract. The same, I know you're Phip Motilal. You all remember you said he had a shop to sell religious items? Well, this one here got a $420 million contract and has a Chinese restaurant. In New York. You would have known by now, the Kaichou News, but I didn't see that make the front page. Chinese shop proprietor gets a $420 million contract in Guyana to supply fertilizer with without any tender. And could you find out, how? Well, now that you know, I expect you will call the GRDB board, because we left about $2.3 to $2.6 billion sitting in GRDB when the government took office. They're busy spending the money there, from what I gather, on vehicles and with these deals. So find out from GRDB what form of tendering did they go through to award this contract. I expect that should be a front page feature for the Kaichou News. And anything else? Well, thank you very much. You know.
All right,
Hang on.